Hey guys, how's it going? So I got the Mercury White Razer Blade 18 and I was looking through all my recent videos on laptops and I realized I actually never did a review on the Razer Blade 18. I did 2 videos on the Razer Blade 16, but I never actually did a full review of the 18. I did all my testing, all my benchmarks. I used it for a few weeks. I guess I might have just gotten caught up in everything that I didn't even realize. I didn't even push out a full review on this thing. But anyway, here it is. A lot of this is going to be similar to the previous Razer Blade 16 videos that I've done in the past. I mean, this is just a bigger version with a different screen. But before I get to all that, let's start talking about this color, because there's not a lot of like high quality videos out there on the Mercury White to begin with. So I just want to start off by saying, usually before I start filming any review, I have a microfiber cloth and I'm constantly wiping whatever laptop I have several times throughout the shoot because it gets so much fingerprints. I have not had to wipe this thing once since I got it. This is the best color for the Razer series. This Mercury White is definitely a winner. One thing I really like about it compared to the previous Mercury White laptops, which I had years and years ago, the keycaps were white. The keys are also illuminated white, which was kind of dumb because you have white keys and white keyboard lighting. Essentially means that you can't see it when the keyboard lights are on. So that wasn't a good move. I like that they made the keycaps black so you could get the contrast of the actual RGB on it. And overall, this is just like a really nice tone of silver. This is probably closer to the natural finish of the aluminum itself, so it's not relying on that anodized black paint or whatever black Razer Blade uses. Overall, this looks just so much more sophisticated. It looks more premium. It looks more expensive, and you're not going to have to worry about the paint chipping or anything like that. And one thing I do like, this could be hit or miss, the Razer logo is no longer illuminated. When the RGB is off, it doesn't have that cheap kind of toy looking green color that the regular Razer Blade has. So overall, I think it's a better design. So really quickly, let's talk about the speakers. As you might have heard, the speakers are fantastic. This is by far the best speakers on any gaming laptop out there. It's better than most laptops. I think it's probably going to give the MacBook Pro 16 a run for its money. I don't have that laptop anymore. Not a big fan of Macs, but in terms of the Windows domain, this might be one of the best overall. Not even just for a gaming laptop. And the way that THX tuned these speakers, it sounds like it's a full surround sound experience. The sound envelops you completely and it's insanely immersive. I don't know how they're able to do this. It's like witchcraft. Keyboard, this is the same keyboard that's in the 16-inch. Trackpad, same thing there. So you could go back and take a look at those, but they're fine. They're good. I don't like the short travel of the keyboard, but it's very MacBook-like, and I know a lot of people like it. I'm not the biggest fan, but I've mained Razer Blade laptops for years and years and years, and I always got used to it. Okay, so let's just quickly talk about the trackpad. It is the largest in the business, at least in the Windows land that I've ever used, and it's incredibly accurate too. You can do some pinpoint precision with this trackpad. The only issue is there's some accidental touches and presses, and that's because it is so large that your wrist sometimes accidentally clicks on something, or it might move the trackpad somewhere, and it can be a little bit frustrating. There's been a firmware to fix it, and it did address a lot of the issues. It only happens once in a while now, but that could be one too many times if you're working on something important. And performance, so like I mentioned, I had ran all my performance numbers before, and I can't believe I never published them, but overall, I'm just going to go through it really fast. 4K and QHD, this is pretty much identical to all the other 4090 laptops that I've tested, including the gigantic GT77. Honestly, I'm not seeing any need to go with a really thick and heavy laptop this year. This is able to do it all. The vapor chamber is doing an amazing job cooling this thing. And on top of that, it's not super loud. I did all my testing with the max fans on just so I could get the best performance. And then once I did that, I was pretty much hitting identical performance to the GT77. So overall, and I mentioned this in a previous video, that I'm really happy that I don't have to spend too much time going over all the performance metrics of every single laptop I test, because they're all doing a really good job. They're all within a few frames of each other, to where I don't think performance should be a deciding factor once you choose one of these laptops that I've tested so far. So that being, I have a Duo 16, which I'm going to cover next, but that's a 4080. This Mercury White is a 4090. I had the Scar 18, which is a 4090, and right now I have the GT77, which is a 4090. And as you're seeing, performance is pretty much identical. So you're choosing the laptop that's better for you, not necessarily the performance. So one thing I did test was silent mode. That's been something that's been more and more important to me, because the fans do get a little bit loud in gaming laptops, and when I'm doing something like recording this video right now, I don't want the fans kicking in. So for me in particular, I'm looking out for how quiet this laptop is while being able to perform well. And the one test that I did is I ran Horizon Zero Dawn on 4K maxed out on silent, and then again at the max fan. Silent managed to stay very, very quiet. Really quiet to where it wasn't distracting to me, and I barely heard the fans. In a regular environment where there's like a little bit of ambient noise, it could just be considered silent, which was nice. So in that mode, I got like 92 FPS versus 97 when I was on max fan. So not a huge performance loss while being silent. The temperatures did kick up a bit though, so that you might want to keep your temperature monitors on to make sure that you don't overheat the laptop. But Razer's been doing a good job of throttling the laptop to make sure it doesn't get too hot though. So that was pretty good. I was really happy about that. And next I want to talk about the display. This is a QHD 240Hz display, and it's the only option available on the 18-inch. This laptop is begging for that 4K mini LED panel that's on the Razer Blade 16 that can also switch into a 1080p 240Hz display. That's probably still the best looking display I've ever seen, but unfortunately it's not available here. But this is a really good QHD 240Hz panel. The contrast is really good for the technology. The brightness is insanely bright. It's one of the brighter ones out there. And one thing I want to mention, gaming at 18 inches, even though it's 16 by 10 and not 16 by 9, it's insanely immersive. Like, I feel like if you get this laptop, you will not need a monitor. This 18-inch screen is insanely large, and it really makes good-looking games shine. But games with lower graphical fidelity, at this distance you're sitting at, you can start to see some of the blemishes in certain games. Especially some of the older ones where the geometry isn't as, I guess, as round or circular, and you can start to see some of those squares. This screen, while sitting so close to it, kind of exposes that a bit. It's a good problem to have, I should say. But resolution wise is fine. I mean, I think at QHD, at this size and at the distance I sit at, I do start to see pixels a tiny bit. Not much, it's good, but I think this laptop would have really benefited from a 4K display. I really hope we see one of those next year. Oh, and one thing I forgot to mention is the camera. Alright guys, so here's a camera test and a microphone test of the Razer Blade 18. I usually never ever talk about the cameras in my laptops because they're all fairly mediocre. If you even care just a little bit, then you would want to get like an external one. But I think this is one of the few laptops out there where the camera and the microphone is actually fairly good right out of the box. So yeah, this laptop has so much going for it. It's super pricey though. It's a little bit overpriced compared to the competition, and I kind of proved that performance is about the same throughout. The screen is nice, but I mean, it's not a very competitive screen compared to what's out there. I think this and the Scar might be the only two 18-inch displays out there. I mean, but overall, the main reason why you would choose this over any other laptop is if you're into the Razer ecosystem, if you value thinness while not sacrificing performance, and you want the best build quality out there of any Windows laptop, then then this is it for you. I know this is a quick review, but like I said, I've covered the Razer Blade so many times before. You can go back and even look at my Razer Blade 17 video from last year and my Razer Blade 16 video from this year, and you'll pretty much have a good idea of what to expect with this laptop. But yeah, that'll do it.